expectation someday. The apostles are waiting expectantly. They don't know what they're waiting for. They do know what they have lost. Jesus has gone. It's been a seesaw since Easter. He was there, and then he was taken from them and killed. Then he was back, and now he's gone again. And this time he's left them with an extraordinary job. He's told them, and we commemorated this on Thursday, Ascension Day, to go into all the world and tell about him. All the world. And here were a group of people who had never been further in miles than Indianapolis, if that. I've met a few people since I've lived here who've never been out of Indiana. Not many, but a few. These people lived in a much smaller place, and the world seemed huge to them. After all, they couldn't get into a tin tub propelled by an infernal combustion engine. An internal combustion engine, and go zooming down the road at breakneck speed. The best they could do was sit on a camel, or perhaps a horse. Horses are quicker than camels. I have more sympathy with camels. They take things slowly and leisurely, and they're grumpy creatures. When I was in Israel a few years ago, there was a rather, shall we say, upper-class lady with us from Cincinnati. And she decided that she wanted to sit on a camel. So she went up to this fellow with a camel and she said, "May I sit on the camel?" He said, "Oh yes, $1 American." So she sat on the camel and the camel got up and she said, "I want to get off." Oh, he said, "That's $5 American." The camels was the best they could do to go anywhere. And you'll notice what the disciples asked Jesus in the lessons today. They want safety. They want security. They say, "Restore the kingdom to Israel now." They were looking back to the days when David was king and Israel was a powerful little nation. And they wanted those days. They wanted to be secure. They wanted to be safe. And instead, Jesus tells them to go into danger, to go outside their own comfort zones, to go into Judea, into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the earth. And you can imagine them on this weekend in that upper room having a conversation about what that meant. They'd lost the treasurer. That's always dangerous when the vestry meets. The treasurer, of course, was Judas Iscariot. So, as they could think of nothing better to do, they elected a successor to him. You know, it's always safe if you can't think of doing anything else to have an election. So they elected a fellow called Matthias, and we know nothing more about him. But there they were, stuck in that upper room, wishing that Jesus had restored the kingdom unto Israel. But instead, outside where they were safe was a dangerous world, the world that had crucified Jesus. They didn't want to go out there. They wanted to stay inside and be safe. But instead, the gospel shows us Jesus praying for something else. He prays not that the disciples should be taken out of the world to be safe, but that they should be safe in the world. Safe where they are. Don't you think the church is awfully like those disciples? We like to be safe. Now, of course, if we were to go out and to start talking about Jesus to other people, we wouldn't be thrown to the lions. We wouldn't be killed for our faith. We wouldn't be, as some underground Christians in China are, thrown into prison. We wouldn't be persecuted as the church is being at the moment in Algeria or in Egypt, where mobs are attacking Christian churches and burning them down. No mob is going to assemble outside St. Paul's Episcopal Church and howl for our blood. It's even worse. They don't even notice that it's here. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever said, I go to St. Paul's Church, and they say, where's that? And you say, on Michigan Avenue. Oh? Well, they know where the Y is. They know where the City Hall is. They have no idea where St. Paul's is. And you say, the church that looks like a castle. Oh, the one with red doors. What sort of a church is that? It's an Episcopal church. Huh? An Episcopal church. Episcopal church? What's an Episcopal church? Oh, those Anglicans. Is that some new kind of a church? No, we were the first people in America. We landed in Jamestown in 1607. You don't look that old, they replied. And you rather doubt whether they've ever heard of Jamestown. And you think, oh my goodness me. Give me a bit of persecution. So most of us don't even go as far as saying, do you know where St. Paul's Church is? Because we're a bit frightened about talking about religion. It's not done. You can talk about politics, and you do. But religion, it's not polite. And what that masks is something called fear. Not fear of being killed for our faith, but even worse, fear of being embarrassed. People might think we're a bit kooky. We might hand them a pamphlet and ask them if they're saved. The disciples wanted some kind of a strong backing if they were going to go into the world. They wanted the kingdom to be restored. And Jesus simply prays that God will keep them safe. And that's not enough, is it? Because if I talk about Jesus to somebody else, I don't feel safe. I don't feel that God is keeping me safe. I feel silly. I feel insecure. I'm embarrassed. Well, don't think you're different from the disciples. It's next Sunday that we will celebrate what happens to them when they're suddenly out in the street early in the morning talking about Jesus, and everybody says they're drunk out of their minds. And Peter replies, this is a Clavier translation of the Acts of the Apostles, don't be silly, the pubs aren't open yet. But it really says it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, which is the same thing. Keep them safe. By the way, if you want to recap this sermon, it's online. It's the chosen sermon for the Episcopal Church for this Sunday. So this sermon is being preached all over the place by people who can't be bothered to think up their own ones. Well, don't think you're different. Just because I wear a collar, it's not very easy for me either. I mean, people talk to me all the time. Are you a Catholic priest, they say? No, I'm a priest, I reply. Why are you wearing that? Somebody asked me. I wanted to say, I'm having Halloween earlier this year. Funny what people think about you, isn't it? As I stagger around Kroger's. Yet we should believe Jesus' promises. He prayed to the Father that we would be kept safe if we did his job. Not safe as safe inside this church building where nobody knows what we're doing or cares much, but safe out there in the world. Safe to talk about him. Safe to show his love. Not safe that in some parts of the world people may persecute you or even kill you, but safe knowing that whatever happens, God is with us. One of my favorite people, and you will like this fellow's name, is an early Christian saint called Polycarp. Sounds like a form of fish, doesn't it? And when Polycarp was 80, he was arrested by the Romans and told if he did not renounce Jesus, he would be killed. And he said, 70 years have I served Jesus, and he has never betrayed me, nor will I betray him. Sometimes to fit in, we're almost asked to renounce Jesus. Don't talk about being a Christian. Don't talk about going to church. Might ruin the game of bridge. But who knows? If you're brave enough to open your mouth, there may be there someone whose heart has been yearning to know about him and to love him, and you may be the instrument of his presence. Amen.